Welcome, this is David the Real Midwife. It's going to be a kind of a short and sweet video where my point is going to be proving why the church, why this, especially this recent pandemic, proves to us that the church is absolutely necessary, more than ever, in fact. And it's going to be kind of like a short argument, and I'm going to use a couple examples of saints just pointing people at the right direction if they want more information and support for my claim that I'm going to be providing for this video. So let's if you're checking this video 2 days, 3 days after this is uploaded, the numbers are going to be pretty much different. But what I want to highlight is that as a lot of us are aware, what's scary about this recent pandemic, this recent event, is not really the fact that it kills people. The death rate is not that high compared to other viruses that we were scared of. The Julius Ebola virus. I stole that joke, sorry, but that virus, for example, had a very high death rate, and that's actually kind of the reason why it kind of just died, because it was too high. But what's dangerous about this virus in particular is that it's very infectious, and in order for you not to die, you will have to be put in intensive care, right? Even mild conditions is kind of um, you have to spend a lot of time in the hospital. Basically, it depends on person to person, but this is what we're seeing in Italy today, right? So this is happening in Italy, where a lot of people are sent in intensive care, and hospitals are full of people to the point you're hearing horrible stories about the measures that people have to take. And so, keeping this in mind, this is really going to be the main argument that I'm going to be providing to you, is that this is a huge proof to me that we have really missed out on what hospitals even mean. We have to ask ourselves this question: where did hospitals even come from? Now, we can point out to the antique times that there were constructions of hospitals, but it was kind of in the back burner, and it isn't really in the way that we know today. So it's kind of very primitive. And while Wikipedia is not absolute truth on everything, obviously, one interesting thing about this Wikipedia article in regards to the history of hospitals is that if you look at the Byzantine Empire, or as I'd like to refer, the Roman Empire, the Christian Roman Empire, is really the forerunner of the modern day hospital system, right? So this part is very important in this article. It says that inpatient medical care, in the sense of what we today consider as a hospital, is an innovation, is an invention driven by Christian mercy and Byzantine innovation. So this Christian Roman understanding and anthropology and what we should be doing with our fellow human beings is really this main driving force of the concept of hospitals in the first place. And especially after the First Ecumenical Council, we start to see hospitals being built. The system of physicians become more and more advanced in the Byzantine system. And I think, and I genuinely believe this, I think the modern secularization really has made us lose our focus, and has made us lose the root of what a hospital is supposed to be. And that is why we're seeing many hospitals kind of having to take these measures. So, for example, let's envision that societies are not secular and they're pretty religious and they're Christian, right? Let's say Italy, for example, is religious and not secular as a state. Wouldn't it be simpler if churches were in a way used as hospitals? As a matter of fact, historically speaking, that's actually how they were used. Many churches were for multiple different purposes. If you look at all churches in Asia Minor today, I've been there, I've been in many churches, and a lot of them were for multiple purposes. A lot of them were either there to store food, for example. So worship is always the main point of the church. But what I'm saying is that there's multiple purposes, right? So the church is not only a hospital for the spiritually ill, but it's also a hospital in the old sense for those who are physically ill. And when we lose sight of this very important fact, I think every time this any pandemic is going to come, and it's not specific to this one, but anytime there's going to be a huge pandemic that's going to threaten or and change our way of life, I think this is something that we have to keep in mind. If we lose religiosity, if we lose Christianity, we lose the concept of hospitals. I mean, that's because that is where the concept of hospitals was even birthed. It even came from this notion that we know today. And so, what I want to go next is point out is a few saints, Orthodox Christian saints that are well known for healing people. So, for Saint Panteleimon is one that's very well known. Saint Panteleimon was a educated physician. He dedicated his life to to sick people, not only those who are sick from viruses or whatnot, but also those who are injured. So Saint Panteleimon will be one of the in Orthodox Christianity, he's very very important. He's basically considered as one of the healing saints, right? If you need healing, he's the saint for that. Another popular group of saints is Saint Cosmas and Saint Damian. So they are referred to as the holy unmercenaries because they will constantly heal ill people without payment, right? So they will do it all for free, basically. And what you're starting to see here is that there's a trend that's coming on and with these saints, and you're starting to see this modern understanding of how hospitals even come into reality through the lives of these saints. So I'm going to be very, very brief on this. If you're interested, you can check the stories of these saints out for yourself. Another group of saints is going to be Saint John and Saint Kyrus. They're very important saints. What's really great about Saint Kyrus, for example, is that he became popular to the point where many people built a hospital for him, which converted into a church. But I will argue, but most likely that church was still used as a hospital. Not only a hospital for the spiritually ill, but also a hospital for the physically ill as well. So through these lives of the saints, if you want to pinpoint where hospitals even come to place, I will say the lives of the healing saints, Saint Kyrus and John, Saint Cosmas and Damian, Saint Panteleimon. These are the lives that we need to analyze in order to understand how did the hospital come into place. And of course, not only were they skilled physicians and educated in secular training, but also they did not forget sight of God. And ultimately, God is the one that has healed, that has allowed them to use their power of healing. And lastly, who's a very more contemporary, not contemporary, but more recent, is Saint Luke, Archbishop. I can't read the name itself. Simferopol and Crimea. So Saint Luke, the Blessed Surgeon, is a huge Russian saint, and I will definitely recommend you to check his life out. There's a lot of things to look out for, but he was a very skilled physician, very skilled doctor, very skilled surgeon, and he dedicated his life to healing, and to the point where he was so good that this was the key reason why he ended up being a martyr, because the timeline that he lived in, if you know a bit about his life, is during the communist regime. And the communist regime didn't really like religious people. Shocker, shocker. And what happens if there's a religious person that is getting a very good image for himself? Well, that kind of seems to be a counter signal to the communist agenda. Now, I'm not trying to make a political statement, although I'm very much anti-communist myself. But what I'm trying to point out here is that the life of Saint Luke is a very good example, a Christian example for us for what a doctor should be and the idea of a hospital should be. And through the lives of these saints, may we understand, hopefully, that if we lose sight of all of this, we need to understand that we lose sight of all of this. We lose sight for many essential things that we consider as something that is normal. But I hope this pandemic kind of gives ideas to some people for them to go back to their roots. So I'm not saying that, oh, I'm not really trying to tell you to do something. What I want to point out really is the connection of the church with the lives of people, right? And this connection being severed has huge consequences, and that's really all I'm trying to point out. So if you watch this video, for example, and you're like, oh, I have to go out there and I have to save people, I have to heal people, that's not really the message that I'm trying to give. Although I think that's very admirable, I think that's something that we should be doing. I want a revival of that, so I'm not going to shy away from this, but that's actually not really the main point of my video. The main point of my video is really all of this, the attitudes that we have towards other people and how people treat other people. Not only is connected historically, but it's all connected spiritually. And we lose sight of that, the foundation crumbles, and we see the responses and the measures taken today where people are so atomized that all they can care about is staying at their own homes instead of trying to help people. And I'm guilty of that, but a lot of people are also guilty as well. So, moral of this video is the church is what came up with the concept of hospitals. If you look at the history, you'll see that this claim is even stronger throughout history. If you look at the lives of the saints, many of them I have named them in this video. You can take a look at them and you can see this idea of a hospital being concretized in these people. And we have to go back to that. But in order to go back to that, we have to dedicate our lives to God. And for those that are already religious, we have to even become even more religious and take God even more seriously. This includes myself, obviously. But also, if there's any secularists watching, I kind of want them to get away with the message that really this, if you look at the history of these things, if you look at religiosity, if you look at Christianity, these things are all interconnected with each other. And the separation of church and state has been a massive, disastrous consequence for the human race. And we need to reverse that. I think we need to reverse that. And if we don't reverse it, we lose the foundation of being human. And we're starting to see this foundation crumbling. So thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully I helped you learn something new today, especially about hospitals. And if you like this, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like my video. If you have anything interesting, about lives of a certain saint that might be more relevant, be sure to share them. Follow me on Twitter. If you like, you can donate me on Patreon. If you don't want to, you can not donate. That's fine. And subscribe to my Telegram. I'll post updates there occasionally. So thank you all for watching. God bless you all. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.